Yo, what is going on, COD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are going to be kicking it back and discussing what I think is going to be interesting topic. So this was actually kickstarted by our girl Abused Panda. I told her back on October 8th, and I feel so bad that it took me this long to get this video out, so apologies to UAP. But this is a question, kind of more of a thought, that was posted on the COD Discord. And here in a moment, we're going to transition and I'll show you the question, I'll show you my response, and then we're going to talk about it. Because I think the topic in and of itself is really interesting. It kind of goes into, right, how can you stop people, how can you mitigate and limit people from jumping ship, right, the moment that they lose a fight, right? How can you curve expectations so you don't have this ginormous amount or potentially high amount of player drop-off in Kingdoms. And so that's what the topic that we're going to be discussing today is going to revolve around. So before we show you what Panda posted that kind of engaged my Jimmy Neutron brain here from having a fantastic brain blast moment, as always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell. Of course, if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit the Discord, you can find the Discord link in the pinned comment description right down below. Okay, so first things first, I had to dig for a hot minute here to find this. You can see here that I was like going through posts, and I had to go all the way back from the time, and as of recording this, Panda had like almost 1,500 posts made, so it took me a minute to find this because I couldn't remember what you had typed, and I was trying to do some keyword searches to find it, and I was like, all right, whatever, I'm just gonna scroll here for an hour and then find it. So this is the post in question. Right, so on the 8th of October, Panda wrote, it would be great to see a feature that stops people from jumping ship the moment that they lose a fight and start in a new server. Maybe the season reset is the answer, maybe it's not. Maybe they'll bring in something completely fresh. So Panda posted that, and then I think I have to scroll down here a little bit. Okay. And then this is where I posted my response, which says, honestly, this will never stop within Kingdom Builders, though there are ways to manage it through the system, education, and expectation setting. Might make a video on this, as it is a fantastic topic that roots deep into the player's psychology for what they do, what they do. Even though this is a really old post, I still feel that I want to correct it. Okay, I feel better now. So this is it. And then I think Panda had posted, it doesn't have to stop, just that it's not the ideal system either. I just want a better system that would work on this issue. Would be fun to watch the video. Do share a link when you upload OWO. Okay, so let's touch on this real quick by doing a little bit of explanation. So for those of you that may or may not be aware, player drop-off essentially refers to the rate in which players will stop playing in a server for any number of reasons. And that's whether they stop playing to restart in a new server, they stop playing in that server because they've migrated out, they've stopped playing the game in its entirely, which again still loses the same activity number for the current server, and anything arguably in between, right? You can see people stop playing because they, for example, as in a peace post, right, got attacked. Maybe you have some bullies on the server that are just hitting one person or a few people just back to back to back to back and just never letting up. That can cause people to leave. Maybe you have people that are making inappropriate comments and posts in world chat / Tamara's chat, and it's never getting addressed. And maybe they just think the devs are incompetent because they don't address every single person that's doing those types of things, right? Which realistically, let's be honest, is hard to address unless you have the manpower and processes in place to really appropriately and properly do that. So this is pretty much how you view player drop-off in every kingdom. Now, player drop-off is prevalent in every single kingdom. You're never going to get rid of it. It's always going to be there. Mainly because you could just have new players that have downloaded the game, they open it up, they play for a day or two, they play for a week, and they just figure it's not for them, right? You can have, and again, I refer to that as kind of more natural, player drop-off. compared to kind of forced player drop-off. Forced player drop-off would be more of players are looking to get out of a situation that they're in because they don't like it, but they still like to play the game. Natural drop-off is more of the kind of natural occurrence of you testing a game out and then just figuring out that you don't like it, right? Or it's just not your cup of tea. So when it comes to, I think, addressing the player drop-off portion, is that there's a few things that come into mind, right? When we talked about the system, right, the kind of education, the expectation setting. So the system in and of itself, when it comes to how you can properly, or let me say appropriately, take advantage of in order, because player drop-off is also directly the opposite, but related to activity and player retention. So if you're trying to keep activity as high as possible, and you're trying to keep player retention as high as possible, where those people are staying and therefore choosing to be active on your kingdom versus another, then you have to think about what is the mindset of the average player, right? Now, the average player really is more free to play than they are spend. And that's because you're always going to have more free to play than you're going to have spenders. It's never going to be close, right? I usually say it's like a 95 to 99%, right, to 1, just in kind of the more extremist examples, right? That's kind of if you're averaging like 50K new players to a kingdom. So now, if you put yourself in the mindset of the average free to play, maybe you could argue low spend, but we'll just say free to play for now. The idea for the average player, right, and this is just generally as well, right, this part doesn't even apply past just a free to play, is that every player wants to progress their account, right? That is the number one universal common denominator across any and every kingdom builder. If you start off playing a game and you really enjoy it, you want to progress in it. You want to, in short, get a max account, right? You want to grind to where you get all the heroes unlocked, they're all max level, they're all max skill. You want to get all the artifacts, and obviously I'm referring to CoD specifically here for some of the terms, right? You want to max out your artifacts. You want to max out your talents on your heroes. You want to max your buildings, max your tech, max your policies, right? Try and contribute to your alliance, right? To try and max your tech on your alliance. All of these things that are factoring into the average player's mindset. Because I can tell you, when I started playing, when I first found out about Rock, my initial thought wasn't, oh, hey, let me download this game so I can go attack some other human beings. No, my thought was, hey, let me progress my account and level it up as fast as possible to try and get it to max while I learn the game and ask questions. And that, to me, seems to be the 99%, if not everyone's baseline level of thinking, is that you want to enjoy the game, you want to play, you want to click on things, you want to read, you want to progress your account arguably unimpeded, right, for the most part. And that's the number one thing that every player wants to do. It doesn't mean that they don't want to PvP. We're mainly just focusing on the idea that you, at minimum, want to level and progress your account. Everyone does. And you want to try and do it as much as you can and as efficiently as you can. And so when you understand this mindset, then you have to think to yourself, okay, well, if I go out and I start attacking people at random, and they feel as though their, progression rate is not the highest that it could be, that's a reason. That can cause people to leave. That can cause people to stop playing their accounts. No matter how you feel about it or what opinion you may have of it, this is a fact. This happens all the time with jumper accounts. For those of you that play Rise of Kingdoms, if you've ever been in a jump project, just go back and think to people, to anyone that you may have come across, because this happens almost every project that I've done. There's always a handful of people where if they feel as though they were not able to 100% max their account in the most efficient way possible, right, unimpeded, then they'll literally just stop. They'll just leave the account and then go join another project. And so, though this may not apply to the brand new player, it does apply to some players who have Kingdom Builder experience. On top of which, the part that really applies to everyone across the board is that if you're getting attacked or you're getting your resources looted, if anything is impeding your general level of progress, that will factor into, depending on how much and what your individual tolerance level is, whether or not you decide to keep playing that account or stop playing that account or migrate the account out or stop playing the game altogether. And as I said, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. You can say it's reasonable or it's completely unreasonable. The fact is that this is a factor. And when you play in enough kingdoms and you talk to enough people and you start noticing these trends, you will in turn start to realize and become self-aware of how choices and actions in a kingdom can affect, if not directly affect at all times, how much player drop-off and the rate in which that drop-off occurs will happen in your kingdom. So this kind of goes back to how do we solve this, right? How do we address player drop-off where we could keep the highest level of activity, and the most amount of players retained in a kingdom? Well, one of the easy answers for this is that you try to avoid rogue PvP. You try to avoid free-for-all PvP when it's unorganized, right? Instead, you try to lean towards organized / controlled PvP. An example of this would be, even if you're in Zone 1, you can take 2, 3 really active alliances and you can say, hey, we're all going to meet at this point. Here's just an example. Let me give you an example here. Let's say that we say, okay, hey, we're all going to meet at this point here where the trees are, right? Or this open point here. And we'll have one alliance here, one here, or we'll do a triangle. One here, one here, one here if you're doing 3. If you're 2, 1 and 1. If it's 4, make a square box. And you're going to say, okay, we're going to do last man standing, right? So everyone's going to fight it out, and it'll just be a battle royale. Or you'll do 2v2. Maybe you'll do a 1v2. Maybe you'll do a 1v3. Maybe you do a 4-man free-for-all. Maybe you do a 3 alliance free-for-all. And you let everyone battle it out over those things, right? This is a way where you can still get all of your PvP fill without having to feel the need to go and just flat out destroy another alliance. This will do multiple things for you that the majority of players across Kingdom Builders do not realize. 1, it will engage more players overall to participate. Why? Because you're giving them a choice. You're not taking the choice away from them. Number 2, because you now have shown that you've given a choice and that people can opt in or opt out to do PvP, you are more likely to have that snowball effect go play into more players now coming back the second, third, and future times you do different types of controlled PvP. More people will show up. Number 3, it keeps PvP engagement as high as humanly possible. You will consistently have good PvP when you do those things. Number 4, you'll constantly be getting merit point generation as an individual player, along with as an alliance, which means you're essentially stacking the deck, right, or manipulating it so that way you can constantly get a bunch of merit PvP, and you ensure that the PvP fights happen, right, either often or consistently, because you're not out there hitting people's cities and draining all their troops, right? So because of that, right, and then if you want to say number 6, right, to throw something else out there, it creates a more healthier kingdom, because you're not now just going around and terrorizing. Instead, you are creating an environment in which is nurturing PvP. And you can do different scenarios. You can say, hey, let's place 2 flags and we'll just fight it out, right? You do like a capture the flag type of game where you say, hey, we have 2 flags. Whoever is able to hold their flag and destroy, or whoever flag gets destroyed first wins, right? And you just do like a 1 flag thing. So these are things, these are approaches. You could even do it with forts. Like, let's just say you have a bunch of credits and you guys want to drop a fort. I think doing a flag's a little bit easier. But to give you an example, right, that's how you do things. You can say, hey, let's fight it out over this behemoth and, see who can last hit it. You can be creative with the ways that you approach. And again, I'm just throwing out examples, right? Hopefully most stick. But the point is that you can be creative in how you approach doing organized PvP. You can do something where you say, hey, in Zone 3, it's free-for-all, right? So any one city that's there, if you're there at this point in time, then, when the next kill event comes around, it's a free-for-all. So if your city's there, you're fair game. There are things that you can do to stimulate great levels of engagement within a kingdom if you just take a minute to think outside the box and to try and generate these types of ideas in a healthy way. Now, on the flip side, and let me say this, on the flip side, I also understand the opposite view. The opposite view being that some of you may just feel that, hey, this is a war game. It's a game that I can do PvP in, and I can do whatever I want when I want. You're absolutely right. No one is saying that you cannot. However, those choices and actions, like we talked about in the beginning of the video, all have consequences. So if your choice is you're going to go out and just do, lawless PvP, or be judge, jury, and executioner and selectively pick your targets at will for whatever objectives you may have, right? Then understand that those actions can come with consequences that may or may not go in your favor. And this is why I think it's important when we discuss and we talk about, which I think is just a fantastic topic here from AP, right, on how can we really get these things to a point of, right, as she mentioned, right, stopping people from jumping ship. There are ways to do it. I can tell you that I have done this in a few kingdoms, with probably the most notable one being one I did in Infinity Kingdom from server 79. For those of you that played IK or you're familiar with 79, for the first 5 months of that kingdom that I built along with others, it was a golden age. We were doing things that no other kingdom was doing, and we were constantly gaining activity. We had phenomenal power balance where the majority of the top alliances, as we were working, I think, on our 8th alliance at the time, were all within a couple million power of each other. I mean, we were doing creative, unique approaches to how to do PvP. We were doing mock KVK preps where we would fight over 2 cities, and alliances would just have a free-for-all. We had designated zones where you were in. We did battle royales, last man standings, and Forbidden Zone, which would kind of be like a Zone 3. I mean, there was just fun, cool stuff that we did, and we engaged people in it because others showed up, right? And that's the thing. If you want things to snowball and you really want these types of PvP levels of engagement to work, everyone has to commit to it. Right? It has to start with your management team, your active contributing players, and once you start doing that more and more and more, that's how you eventually get additional players to show up and to participate and to engage and to assimilate themselves. So again, with all of this being said, right, this is just one way to go about it. This doesn't mean that it's the only way to go about it when you're kind of looking at unorganized versus organized / controlled versus uncontrolled PvP. But this just hopefully goes to show in one way that you can address these things. The last thing I'll leave you with, for those of you that are still here, is that a very important thing is really about expectation setting. If you want to try and factor or move that needle where you're able to retain more active players, you have to do your due diligence in the beginning of the kingdom's life. This means that you're making unification efforts, again, as one way of doing it, to all the active alliances and the majority of the active players early on. So that way you can inform, explain, and hopefully, right, take some time to try and sell people on a vision, an idea, on ways that everyone can work together in some type of unified way that will give them more of a reason, or just any reason, to stay and play because of the way that the kingdom is going to be built. compared to if you don't have a game plan and you're just winging it, and you're going around and saying, oh, here, I have a couple allies, you have a couple allies, this group, you just have all these groups that have a couple allies, and then it's just no one communicates, no one does diplomacy, there's no effort to try and unify and organize in an actual structured way, and then it's just, okay, you're not going to join me, you're not going to give me this pass, I need this behemoth, I'm just going to go and attack you. So there's so much to Kingdom Builders that is really just at the surface when it comes to managing, when it comes to setting appropriate expectations kingdom-wide, when it comes to setting appropriate player expectations, realistic ones versus unrealistic. So these are things that I thankfully have had the opportunity to really educate myself on, because I've always taken the initiative to go and learn, to go and ask questions, to go and ingratiate myself so I can further educate myself on noticing trends when I go in and I scout and I assess and I analyze kingdoms across multiple kingdom builders. I love doing this stuff. So with all of that being said, this video went a little bit longer than I think I was anticipating to, but Panda, I hope I did you proud, my grill, and if anything, that is it for me. I would love to know what you guys think in the comments down below. Again, I love doing these kind of topical talk pieces where we really kind of apply some critical thinking, and I'm able to really not only kind of give references and tell you somewhat of a story, but hopefully explain things in a way where you will feel that you actually got something good out of it that is now going to help you understand how to approach kingdom builders in a new way, maybe different way, or in an expanded way. Okay, that's it for me. Would love to read what you guys think. If you agree, you disagree, why. If you have a different view, a different thought on maybe how we can, as a game in COD, approach the idea of player drop-off, people jumping ship in maybe another unique way, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down below. That is it for me. As always, until next time, I will catch y'all later.